All right, so 1336. I think we're good to go. Darius, could you move one slide here? Perfect, thank you. So oh, there's one more joining, Waldo. Perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is Gediminas, but people are calling me Gedi, Gadi, and all the other ways, G, etc. Today, me and my colleague Darius will give you a short webinar, which is not the classic boring presentation-based webinar. It's more about preparing you for the 2025 installation season. I know season was not stopping fully because of the mild winter, but it's very important actually to refresh some of the knowledge about SolarEdge, to learn something new, what actually changed, how to adopt to changes, and how not to miss the most important steps, especially for those ones who are the newcomers into the SolarEdge world. So we'll try to give you interesting, not boring, very compressed information for an hour and a half. We'll try to stick to the time. And then if we still have some time, so we can run the Q&A session, hopefully to see your cameras open and hear your voices. But chat is fine as well for those who don't want to do it. So the topics which we'll do today, we'll talk about design, do's and don'ts, what we see not only with the SolarEdge devices and equipment, that installers sometimes are not paying attention to the proper design, and that's actually really kills the PV installation. You are losing production. System is not working correctly, and that leads for the minimum is a small production. The worst case, it can destroy the equipment, damage it, no warrants, and other issues. So design, and then when you are designing, you need to choose the right equipment. Then next thing is, once you have a design, you have the equipment ready, you need to go on the site and install it. What do you need to have on that day? What tools you need to bring, what to use. We'll talk about it. Then installing, few things about the installation, where we are seeing constantly people are doing mistakes. Few words about commissioning, what's changed in the SolarEdge, how the company is trying to help installers to save time, and those who are constantly checking the SolarEdge updates, they can actually find a beautiful way how to save time and make installations much faster. And then there is a troubleshooting. I think this is also very important. I hope Iris will manage today on time and touch a little bit troubleshooting. There are many situations when the system is not working, and most of the time is because one or other steps are missed during the commissioning, or some very small mistakes were done in the installation wiring, which is not allowing to launch the system. And instead of opening the case, calling to the support, there are many ways how you can do it by yourself. And I believe, honestly, that more than 60% of challenges and issues on the installation can be solved by the installer immediately on the site without any additional help from the, let's say, manufacturer or a friend. So that's the topic, and Darius, I think it's good to go. Stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. Now we'll talk a little bit about how to choose the right equipment, some major key points to look after and keep in mind. So first of all, I would like to talk about oversizing, because actually we still are getting a lot of questions regarding this. Not all the installers are comfortable with using high oversizing values, and they always often asks if it really makes sense to do high oversizing. If you check out the data sheets, for example, if we are talking about residential home group inverters, allowed oversizing is 200%. For example, if we have a C10K inverter, so oversizing is allowed up to 20 kV. If we're talking about commercial inverters, for example, synergy inverters, here is also an example from datasheet. For example, if we have a C100K inverter, so it's allowed to oversize it up to 175%. So what should be the average oversizing and what you should use it, and if it really makes sense to go with such high oversizing? I made some comparison between two systems. Here we have small system, home web inverter, and the first system has 10.68 kV modules or DC power. And in the system below, we have 18.79 kVp of DC power. So it's almost 200%, 187 to be exact. So how does the numbers look like? Of course, if we compare, for example, maxed achieved AC power, so it's almost the same. Here we have slightly less. Here we have up to 10 kV because it's the 10 kV inverter. And also I want to mention one point that we are talking here about East-West system. So that's why here we don't reach 10 kV in power of AC power. So if we're talking about specific production, annual specific production, so the numbers are not that different actually. Here we have 853 kilowatt hours from kilowatt peak, and here we have 836. So in general, if we're talking about the, let's say, clipping loss of the power, it's pretty low. Here is the diagram of a higher oversized system. So we have inverter clipping loss only 2.49%. It's on the high side, yes, but still it's quite manageable. So for the smaller systems, home systems, if we have like several different tilts, orientations, and so on, as usually is the case, it totally makes sense to go with high oversizing in these cases. From my personal experience and how, let's say, I see the projects in the different countries, if we're talking about, let's say, commercial projects of, let's say, from 100 to 1 megawatt size, usually the oversizing looks like this. For the south-oriented systems, it usually is around 100-120%. And it totally makes sense because usually in these cases you have the clipping loss up to 1%. If we are talking about East-West systems, which are usually rooftop mounted systems, so oversizing usually is from 120 to 140%. And again, with such oversizing, you will get around 1% or less than 1% of inverter clipping loss. So I would say it's totally fine with such oversizing, and we really do not recommend to undersize inverters, because in these cases, one of the main key points is that inverter loses some efficiency if it's undersized. And the other reasons is that, for example, we had some discussions with one installer. We had 5 kV project size, and initially they went with inverter undersizing. Of course, we did like 1-to-1 on the let's say STC values, but since it was East-West system, orientation was not perfect. The actual undersizing was around 80%. And when we started to look how to save money, and we wanted to, we had long discussions, what cables should we choose for AC side? Because as we already know, if it's undersized 80%, the inverters will never reach 100% of AC power. So maybe it's possible to use thinner cables and smaller circuit breakers. But in the end, we decided that we still have to install proper cables and proper circuit breakers, because usually the design is done according to a, let's say, equipment label. So if inverter is 100 kV, you need to design accordingly the cables, which could withstand 100 kV of AC power, and circuit breakers as well. So if you are doing undersizing of inverters, you always usually will have higher AC grid costs as well. So it doesn't make sense to undersize the inverters. Another thing I would like to talk about is about optimizer compatibility and the main requirements you need to consider doing some designs. Here we have example of S1000 optimizers. This table can be found in the bottom of the datasheet. So the main key point is that we have minimal stream lengths for each type of optimizers and inverters. For example, in this case, we have for almost all inverters, we have a minimum quantity of 14 optimizers. That means that if you design the strings with less optimizers, you may void the warranty. It's very important to meet these requirements. And also, if you see here for certain inverters like SC30K and also SC90K, the minimum quantity of optimizers is 15. Why is that? It's because the major part of inverters are working at 750 volts string voltage. These inverters are working at 850 volts string voltage. So since the string voltage is slightly higher, we need one more optimizer as a minimum. Another thing which is, let's say, slightly more complicated is how much we can have as a maximum continuous power per string and maximum allowed connected power per string, because this one differs from inverter to inverter actually, and it's really hard to remember it. So even I don't remember each value, because for it even differs for different kind of optimizers actually. So, but always if you try to design some let's say projects manually, just please take note that this is different requirements for different inverters. Another main, let's say, rule which must be observed and is that we have a maximum difference of number of power optimizers per string which are connected to the same inverter or power unit. So the maximum allowed difference is 5 optimizers. That means that if you have one inverter, two strings cannot differ more than 5 optimizers from each other. Pretty similar rules are for residential optimizers as well, only with slight difference. Since we have slightly smaller systems here, the quantity of optimizers is also a little bit less in some cases, but in some cases even more. If we're talking about this 440 or as 500 optimizers, so for single phase inverter is 8, for the short string inverters is 9, and for the phase inverters is 16. This one is for the different regions. It's not applicable for in our case because we have 400 volts grid voltage. Also, we have another, let's say, kind of optimizers which have slightly higher output voltage. So it's S500B and S650B. So with each these optimizers, we can have slightly shorter strings. So accordingly, we have here 2 optimizers less. Here we have 1 optimizer less, and here we have 2 optimizers less. This optimizer is also recommended to use when you have like pretty short string, for example, 14 optimizers like a minimum, and you have a different, let's say, tilts on orientations on the rooftop on the same string. So optimizers with higher output voltage will be more suitable because the string will be able to power up earlier and will produce longer during the day. Of course, we have like maximum string length, or let's say a maximum quantity of optimizers per string, maximum power per string as well for this kind, for each kind of inverter. But another, let's say, the important rule is if we talked before about commercial optimizers and there is like 5 optimizers difference. Here we have not quantity of optimizers, but we have the maximum amount of power difference between the strings, which is 2 kilowatts. So the string cannot differ more than 2 kilowatts from each other. Another, let's say, thing I would like to mention, because it's sometimes also the installers are making some mistakes. Since we have commercial and residential optimizers, or commercial optimizers can be connected 2-to-1 in 2-to-1 configuration, but they are not compatible with inverters which are less than 10 kV. So commercial optimizers are not compatible with residential inverters, which are up at 10 or less kV. So if you want to connect, let's say, commercial optimizer with a residential inverter, the only suitable inverters are 15, 16, and 70K inverters. On the other hand, commercial inverters like 20K and above, they all can work with residential optimizers if needed. So it's also worth to remember that. Okay, so now we have some good news. Actually, we got before a lot of requests or waivers that the installers want to connect slightly higher power modules or modules which have higher short circuit current than it's allowed. So we decided to allow for all the installers to connect slightly higher and modules to the current optimizers. So here is the example of S1000 S1200 optimizers datasheet. So now we have these 2, let's say, slightly modified lines. So a maximum short circuit current, or ISC, for connected modules can be up to 20 amps. So I believe it should cover most of the, let's say, modules currently in the market, except maybe the biggest one, which let's say installed mainly in the utility scale projects. So I think it should be enough. And also we have here now like maximum continuous input current. So you can exceed this value, the only thing you need to consider that in some cases you might see the clipping loss. If, let's say, inverter could, not inverter, but module could operate at slightly higher current, it will not be able to, because the maximum continuous input current is only 15 amps. Also, here, another thing that we, in addition to the current, we also slightly upped the rated input DC power for each optimizer. So before that, if we, for S1000, we had like only also 1000 watts of allowed power. Now we have 1050, and in this case we have like 1260. So in this case we can connect a module which is like with 25 watts higher power, and here like 30 watts higher power. Also, I think it's a good news. Also, we had some requests regarding to allow to connect higher power modules for the residential optimizers as well. In this case, we didn't update the datasheet, but we released the general waiver. So basically, if you want to connect higher power modules and or modules which have higher short circuit current, you can do that, but only with S500B and S650B optimizers. So now for this optimizer, you can connect 550 watts module, which has up to 16.5 amps of short circuit current. And for this optimizer, is the power stays the same, but also the short circuit current is up to 16.5 amps. So I talked a lot about these data sheets, designing rules, different, let's say, string powers, different quantity of optimizers. So is it complicated? I think it's yes, it's pretty complicated. So, and you will not be able to remember everything. So we always recommend to using a designer, actually. Even me, if I get some questions regarding is it allowed to do that or this, I usually just fire up the designer, make a quick design and check if everything is okay. Because it's almost impossible to remember all the allowed string powers, differences, and so on, quantities, and so on, so on. Also, another thing, for example, of course, in this webinar, I already told about extended datasheet parameters, or let's say waivers, but I'm pretty sure that not always this information reaches you. So a designer is the best way to check all the latest design changes rules, and to check if we have any general waivers released for one or other equipment. For example, in this case, if you want to design, to make a design with S440, you can do that. And you can see that in the list, when you choosing the optimizers, designer already states that for some optimizers, waiver condition apply. So that means that there is already a waiver which might extend some of the parameters, and maybe you will be able to do the design which you was not able to do that before that. So I think it's the best place to check all the latest changes, because usually we try to implement these changes into a designer as soon as possible. So I really recommend to check every time the design in the designer. And here some example. This work was done by Gediminas, so he secretly make a how to call it, secret shopping. So he made some inquiries from the different installers with our system to check how they handle it and what they are proposing. So we can review quickly about some of these. So the first one was 440-watt modules. They proposed 10K inverter and 440-watt optimizers. So this, let's say, proposal was okay. No errors here. Everything is great. Let's check another one. So here we have 450 watts modules, 18 of them. Again, 10K inverter, and they proposed S1000 optimizers. So if you remember, I told already, this is a commercial optimizer, and they are not working with 10 kV inverters. Another issue is, since this is a commercial optimizer, probably they maybe wanted to connect it in 2-to-1 configuration. And another mistake is that since we have only 18 modules, if you connect 2-to-1 configuration, you will get only 9 optimizers, which is way below the minimum requirements we have of 14. So here we have like 2 major mistakes done with this proposal. Another one, again, 395 watts modules, 16K inverter, as 440 optimizers. So this one is okay, actually. No worries about this one. Another one is 470 watt modules. We have again 10 kV inverter, and we have P950 optimizers. Again, this is a commercial optimizer, it's not working with this inverter. And again, if we connect this 2-to-1 configuration, there is not enough optimizers. And if we connect 2-to-1, actually this module power exceeding the allowed connected power at the time. So three mistakes here. Let's check this one. 455 watts modules, 10K inverter, as 440 optimizer. So this, let's say, inquiry was done some time ago, and at the time it was not possible to connect higher power modules than 440. So the only mistake they did, they proposed slightly higher power modules for this optimizer. Now, at that time, this proposal was not correct, but actually now, since we extended some, let's say, data sheets, it is correct. And the final one, 570 watt modules, again, 10 kV inverter and P601 optimizer. So the same mistake. This is old commercial optimizer, so it's not suitable for 10K inverter. And another problem is since this like pretty high power bifacial module, it probably doesn't meet the requirements of this optimizer, such circuit current action. So as you can see, installers sometimes do these mistakes. Even it's like pretty simple rules, like commercial optimizer does not work with residential inverters. Sometimes they don't observe the minimum quantity of optimizers, and so on, so on. So that's how it looks. And the final thing I want to tell you, usually we have also get some questions. How do we know which optimizers are compatible with which optimizers? So now I need to stop sharing my screen, and I want to open these documents which are the links are shown. In a second. Okay, so I opened this two documents. The first one is residential power optimizer intercompatibility technical note. So you can find it in the internet, and the main things is that we have here tables, which optimizers are compatible with one another. So as an example, if we take a look at S440, it's compatible with S500 and S650C or U650. And they're not compatible, for example, with S500B optimizer. And the opposite way, for example, S500B are compatible only with this optimizer, but they're not compatible with regular ones. What is the main key factor which decides if the optimizers are compatible or not with each other? This factor is output voltage of the optimizer. So in general, you cannot mix the optimizers with different output voltage. This is a main key factor. So why is that? Because, for example, when the inverter and the string is operating, it depends on the available power or irradiance. So basically, the system decides what voltage, how much voltage the optimizers should keep should output to keep let's say the maximum available power. So for example, if we connect all the optimizers with higher output voltage and connect one optimizer with lower power voltage, it might be the cases that the string will need to operate at very, let's say, to output high voltage, but this optimizer will not be able to keep up. He will be working under the stress, and if it prolongs it does for a long time, it might be damaged because of that. That's why we cannot mix optimizers which are not compatible. And the same document we have also for the commercial optimizers. So here we have a similar table, and we can check which optimizers are compatible with each other. Here again, one thing to mention. I forgot to mention. So here we have S650A optimizer, which this is a new product. He has even higher output voltage than S500B. So these optimizers are not compatible with any other optimizers. You can use only these optimizers in the system if you're using it. The same is for the commercial optimizers. If we're talking about S1400, they are compatible only with themselves. You cannot connect them with other optimizers. Again, here there is one mistake actually, which was spotted with Gediminas yesterday. S1000 and S1200 are compatible with each other, but in this case there is some kind of mistake. We'll check with colleagues why is shown like this, but I'm pretty sure there is a mistake. Also, S1000 are compatible with older optimizers. Okay, and I think that's it from my side. So Gediminas, you can take over.
Great intro and good presentation. I think most of the points you mentioned, it's quite important, especially for in the last part of the slides you showed. I personally get quite a lot of questions from the installers, the ones who wants to enlarge the existing sites, and they are not sure how to deal with the mix of optimizers. Can they mix in the same string? Can they mix on the same inverter? So guys, if you have doubts, and we all have doubts sometimes when you are not familiar with the specific technology, it's free of charge. Send the email to Darius. Will take you 1 minute. You'll get the answer back in a minute. I hope, Darius. That's you're that's how fast you are, and you're not wasting money. You're not stuck on the roof. You didn't burn any optimizers. We will advise you what type of optimizers, what type of inverter you need to use for the specific cases. And then, of course, you will grow your own experience, and from that on, you don't need that to ask us so often. So now I'll share my screen. Let me try to do it. So it worked yesterday, so let's hope it will work today. Okay, give me a few seconds. Okay. Comment. So Darius, please confirm that all good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And basically, I can start. I will just get immediately the laser. I like the way you use it. So it's good. Laser pointer. So guys, see, the number didn't drop. We are still 20. I think there was 21. So Darius, well done, well done. So my part, I will go a little bit different angle from what Darius was doing. Darius is a project engineer and he's really focused on design. And I'm the one who is very focused on the end result. So when the site is running, the service is not requested, everything is fine, the installer is happy, the customer is happy, we are happy. That's how it should be, but it's not always the case. And why it's not always the case is that small mistakes were done in the beginning, which in the end becomes a big problem and it causes a headache for everyone. So can we avoid it? Yes, we can. How we can avoid it? Let's try to talk. So I think this is 4 things what I will always saying. Good multimeter, get ready, do the mapping, do the design before coming to the site, and be ready with everything else you needed for the same work, right? So why I always say right tools. This is the example what happens when you use the right tool, the MC4 crimple, the press, and the pliers from, I don't know, Lidl. And unfortunately, I have to say we have quite a lot of installations in the Baltics done in this second example. I know personally, I saw personally people are using players because they are saying, well, I will not invest 200 euros in a proper tools for only, I don't know, 5 times I need to press. I'm especially aiming for the smaller installers who are just basically doing couple installations and they don't want to invest money. But consequences of a poor job is very bad and can be very dramatic. So what happens if MC4 connector is faulty, is poorly pressed? I believe those who are long enough in this industry, you guys, you saw melted, burned MC4 connectors. Some of them caused maybe even a little fire, which I hope fortunately didn't become a big fire. Well, those who didn't see the big fire last year in February in UK, please after this webinar, type in on Google UK Lidl fire, and then you'll see the massive rooftop burning. And the cause of the fire and a million plus losses was just a simple MC4 connector for €2. So we buy the best panels, the most efficient panels. We buy good inverters. But if we do a poor job on MC4 connectors, we'll have troubles. So how does it look in the theory? We did a really nice study, and we see once there is a problem in the MC4 connector, there is a small smoke which comes from the connector. Then you see the fire on the connector. Then there is a visual arc. At this moment, inverter, if it's equipped with the AFCI, it should notice that, oh, we have an arc, we have a problem on the roof. We should stop production, shut down the current floating. We should stop everything for the safety reasons. If inverter is not equipped with the FCI, what happens? It burns until the gap between the connectors are too big to contain the current floating. So as long as the distance is okay, you will see the constantly arc happening. So for that reason, we understood that one of the weakest points on the roof is MC4 connectors. You have hundreds, thousands of MC connectors, depends on the size of the installation. So even a small installation, you can have 20, 30, 40 MC4 connectors. And if they are not connected well, you didn't press enough, if you didn't use their proper tools, even if there is a manufacturing error, it happens. Yesterday we had the same webinar for the Lithuanian audience, and they said like, yeah, we seen burned MC4 connectors from even PV manufacturers when you're connecting PV modules in series when they were not using optimizers. So here what SolarEdge realized that this is the weakest point. Study says approximately 70% of all the failures comes from the MC4 connector. So let's do some job. Let's think how we can avoid it. And we did a great job. We found a new technology. It's called Sense Connect. So every optimizer S series contains the temperature measurement equipment, so temperature sensors, and it measures 10 centimeters away from the optimizer. And if MC4 connector starts to heat up, the threshold is approximately 200 Celsius. Inverter will notice, optimizer will send the data to the inverter, and inverter will shut the string. So even before the smokes, before the arc, before the fire, immediately the production will be stopped, will be turned to the safe DC, and you guys, you'll get into the monitoring that this exact PV module, exactly on that specific location, has the electrical arc or has a faulty MC4 connector. Go and check. We already have a list of sites from the customers which told us, thanks God, we had the Sense Connect technology, we found this issue. So we're trying to see that it's not only the great thing as a marketing, where we say, oh, you know, Sense Connect, but it actually brings the benefit for real customers in real situations. Another thing, what I always saying to the installers, guys, please take a look, read the manual for a couple minutes, go through the main points. I really don't like when the installers are trying to install and set up SolarEdge by a chance, just trying out. If you do not work with SolarEdge daily, if you are installing very few installations a year, or you're just a newcomer who come to work with the SolarEdge, we are super happy. But we would really be happy if you invest at least an hour and a half for the SolarEdge Academy. During the COVID, we created a full online platform to study, to train your colleagues, your engineers. And guys, this is really can save you lots of money, lots of time, and just make everything super easy. So why SolarEdge Academy is important? You will be certified installer once you're finishing and you're passing the test. Test is super easy. You don't need to be scared of it. 30 questions. I think you can do 5 mistakes or 4 mistakes. You can retake tests as many times as you want. But once you're answering the questions, you get the certification. Valid for a year. The reason why it's for a year that we do a lot of changes, new design rules, new equipment comes up, and etc. and etc. So as Darius showed. And if you don't want to study academy, if you don't want to get a certificate, what the consequences? So first of all, I would say no certification, no warranty. We are usually not so strict at the moment for it, but when we see destroyed batteries, which is very difficult to say, is it a installer fault or the manufacturer's fault, and the batteries cost a lot, and we see no certification, you guys, you are on the very thin ice. So why not investing an hour and a half to avoid the questions from us, from the tech support? Secondary, no certification, no compensation. So there is 100%. If you don't have a certification, there's going to be no compensations by any case from SolarEdge. Then there is no certification. We know that you have no clue what you're doing. You're trying to guess. Sometimes we have installers installing SolarEdge without optimizers, burning inverter, and asking for the warranty. No, that's not going to happen. Then no certification, no knowledge, no trust from the client. Sometimes client knows much more than installer, and this is not okay. No certification, no trust from us, no trust from support. And of course, if you have no certification, many extra functions are actually locked and hidden from the installer because we know that you don't know our system. So we are not giving you like a higher access, for example, changing the grid settings, which is in certain areas important. And maybe you need to change, maybe take a photo for the grid operator. Those ones are hidden for you until you are not passing the academy specific courses. Maybe you should get one. That's my message about academy. If anyone needs, please drop me an email. I will give you instructions. If someone has a problem with the registration or something, let me know. Okay, getting back to the technical questions, Darius gave a perfect presentation about design. I want to a little bit stress on the optimize and installation, as this is the cornerstone of the SolarEdge technology. So this is where we started, and that's what we believe. So with the optimizers, you basically need to know a few things when installing. First of all, don't forget to take the QR code from the installed optimizer. If you will forget it, you will not be able to do the mapping. You will have to get on the roof again to take a small QR code from the optimizer. Take a piece of paper, export it from Designer. Once you're installing, put the stickers in the same way you install the PV modules. You'll do the mapping. That's it. Secondary thing where we are really strict is how the optimizer is installed. I believe the main rule is very simple. From the front of optimizer, leave 10 millimeters clearance all directions. That's it. Not much to remember. Sometimes we get emails and calls and they say, oh, is this still warranty? In some countries, there is a third-party organization which checks if the installation is done well. Sometimes installers are double-checking with us. So here we see that installer is fitting into the rules. There is just on the edge 1 centimeter gap between the grill and the roof. We say it's okay, but it would be less if the grill would touch the roof, would be no go. Then what we should not see on the roof. On the left photo, lousy installation, optimized, are not tied up, cables are just rolling all across the roof. Then this is very ugly. Sometimes if it's rainy, it's snowy, installer thinks, oh, okay, I will just connect the optimizer ends just to protect MC4 connectors from water. But this actually damaged the sealing at the optimizer, and it can damage optimizer itself. So please don't do this. Here is a perfect example of what I mentioned about clearance. And this is a very common mistake. Actually, I observed it, I don't know, tens of times. Please do not push the optimizer maximum to the rail without leaving the gap. And here as we call, this is a submarine optimizer. It was like installed in the place where the water collects, and installer was saying why it's not working. So one thing, the optimizer is not built as a submarine, right? But another thing is MC4 connectors are IP65, which is not made to be constantly under the water. So take a look where do you install your PV, if the drainage is okay, because this is a damage can be done. There's going to be no warranty. Another topic, no warranty. Never ever cut original SolarEdge cables. If you have ordered the PV panels with the MC4, not the MC4 connector, with a different connector, and you're deciding to cut the optimize and change the connectors, no warranty. Do extension cords, do whatever it takes. Do not cut original cables. Here are also the examples how you can connect one optimizer per PV module or one optimizer per two PV modules. So here is basically you're connecting from panel plus and minus the optimizer, and then you're connecting optimizers in series. Here, those who never installed the commercial one with a 2-to-1 way, it's basically connecting panel plus and minus together, and then plus and minus to the optimizer. And again, you're following in series. This one, we do not produce any more optimizers to connect in this way. Like, this is just what we used to do in the past. Okay, another thing, a small remark for the Nordic countries. When you do installation, you can always check the voltage and see if you are connected everything correctly. So the story is very simple. Optimizer, which is not paired, not connected to the inverter, gives you 1 volt per optimizer. And last year in November, December, even this year in January, when installers comes in the morning and they do installation, by the afternoon or late afternoon, they starting to do pairing or they're measuring the voltage, and they don't see the right numbers. They're starting to check the cables, but the problem is very simple. It's not enough irradiation. So optimizers are the passive electronic devices. They do not produce electricity. They get electricity from the panels and transfers to the inverter. So if you have no light, you will not be able to measure volts. There's going to be 0 or something which is not okay. You will not be able to do pairing. Again, you need some light shining to the panels. So, and then the last thing is never ever use very cheap multimeters. If you do it, it can show you like 7 volts, even you have 8 optimizers, and you will be trying to find the one, but there is just a long cables and your multimeter is just not good to measure it correctly. We always saying that there is a deviation from 1 volt. It can be 0.9, it can be 1.1, but it's always gonna be approximately 1 volt per optimizer. With the inverters, it doesn't matter, it's a residential, commercial inverter. Please read the manual, check the clearance for the heat dissipation. Do not block airflow. Power electronics has one enemy, it's a heat. So if you want that the inverter would work for the warranty and longer, make sure it has a chance to cool down. So either you're installing indoor or outdoor, there's a different distances. It's all in the manuals, easy to check. Here, this is the example when we speak with installers and some installers do not understand. Picture number 9. So why you have to keep the 30 centimeters here, even it's a wall? So the ones who did this instruction, they were thinking, okay, this is a very thin metal sheet, like a wall. Here is the south, and if this wall is non-stop getting the south sun, it's hot, obvious. And then you need to have a gap for the inverter. Here is never ever put two inverters back to back without keeping the 20 centimeters gap. Everyone would say, yes, we know, don't say it again, we understand. I will show you something later. Here, I don't want to go into very, very big details about cabling and etc. It's not about this. But number one, what you really need to remember when you work with the aluminum cables, make sure you do everything correctly. You prepare the cables, you use the pasta from the that avoid the oxidation on the contact. Me and Iris just saw so many melted connectors because of the poor conductivity. So please make sure you do a good job here and you have no issues later on. Grounding as well, very important. With the communication, if you do installation with the multiple inverters and you do it first time, please do not hesitate. Text us, write us, we'll help you, we'll explain it if you need it. We'll give you a call and help you on the site. But two things to remember. First of all, never ever forget to turn on the RS-45 termination switches for the first and the last inverter in the row. Do the leader inverter, not any other device. Do not do the leader gateway. Do not do a leader anything else. Do the leader inverter, and then the rest is follower. Very simple, easy to remember. And then, if you are not able to find the followers, mostly the issue is that all the followers are on the same ID. So don't forget to go and change IDs with the follower inverters because they constantly usually comes with the default ID as 1. And if you have all the ones, you will not be able to set the whole chain. Sometimes we get the question if the inverters have the Wi-Fi, a possibility. Yes, it's optional. You can have the hub inverters with a Wi-Fi board. So if you need a wireless internet to the commercial inverters, yes, there is an option. One option which is not very popular in Baltics, in Western Europe it's more popular, it's a pre-commissioning without AC power. So if you're installing somewhere open installation, open field, you have no connection so far from the grid operator, and you want to do the commissioning, so you only need the power bank to start the inverter, then inverter runs from the PV modules, and you can do the pairing, you can do the measurements, you can do the mapping, all the full commissioning, get the commissioning report, and then once the grid is ready, someone on the side only needs to turn the AC circuit breakers on. You don't need to go back on the site because that is how you win the time. If you do not do this before you getting AC, once the grid operator gives you AC, you're going back to the site, and then you do a commissioning on the DC. So you can really prepare DC much earlier phase, and you don't need to waste time. You don't need to go to the site twice. I think it's a great thing if anyone has any sites where you're planning to do installation before even you getting the AC connection. Again, give us a message. We'll help you with any information needed. LED indications, tricky. The best way, if you are on the site, you don't have the slides on your phone, computer, put on the Google, SolarEdge LED, and you will get the first link. You click on that link, and there's a full information about LED information and what every LED means. So you don't need to remember. You just need, most importantly, you need to know where you can find it. And a few examples, right? As a promise. So this is the beautiful way inverters installed, photos for LinkedIn. We are enjoying it. This is what we are not enjoying. And as I mentioned, please do not put inverters back to back. Keep the distance. They say, yep, we know. No, they don't. And this is not okay. They took a photo for the service, and service immediately refuses to give the warranty. It could be easy just giving an extra bar and making a gap. And it's obvious that if you have a grill, which is a radiator here, it's not logical that the heat goes from one inverter to the other inverter. I mean, it's not okay. Here again, this is a very famous story and photo from one of the installations we have. And here we see that the gap between the top and the low rows is less than 40 centimeters. And it's not okay. They needed to reinstall the inverters, make bigger gaps. Here, sometimes in the small cabinets, we see that inverters are pushed because you have no space. Guys, if you ever get into the small room, it's full of inverters running in the middle of the summer, you will notice that it's like a sauna and you need to bring cold beer because inverters are spreading a lot of heat from the grill when the production is at the maximum. What happens when inverters are reaching the temperature limits? They are reducing active power, and that means you're losing production. And we have sites which were not producing well just because it was way too hot in the room. They had to install either AC or ventilation or change the layout of the inverters. There is a specific tables which tells you how much heat every inverter gives on his nominal power. Right on Google, the first document will appear from the SolarEdge Knowledge Center, and you will see it. Another thing, what I want to mention briefly today is the SolarEdge Go app. I believe most of you already have it because we are phasing out another apps. So long story short, we used to deal with 3 apps: setup, mapper, monitoring. Setup is going to be removed, I think, in a few weeks. Monitoring is disabled since 31st of December or 1st of January. And the mapper will also be connected to SolarEdge Go. So one app to deal with everything what's about SolarEdge. So app is very simple. Those who never tested it, we had a setup. Now we have a SolarEdge Go. With a SolarEdge Go, you can do end-to-end installation flow, very easy commissioning. You can do commissioning on the site. You can do commissioning even remotely if needed. If someone is on the site and they don't know what to do, you can always connect to the inverter even remotely. It's auto sync to the cloud. You can have a designer, you have a monitoring. Here is the example how the monitoring looked on the left side and how does it looks now on the right side. A few functions what I really like is that when you want to visit a customer, you click on the navigate, and then it immediately reads the address and links you with the Google Maps or Apple Maps or Waze, wherever you use. You click the contact. If installer put the right number, you can immediately call to the customer. If you're on the site and you need to replace inverter, you need to add a new inverter or battery or EV charger, you can immediately do it from the app. The good thing when you're replacing something, right? It used to be you taking the serial number, you're going back to the office, you are opening your laptop, connecting to SolarEdge, then you go admin, click replace, putting a new serial number, click replace, waiting it's uploaded. Now, with one click, one photo, you're done. With a service, that's what exactly I'm saying. Extremely simple. Then you can talk with us immediately with the tech support. You can open the tickets from the app. You can do alert and the diagnostic and troubleshooting. Everything is in the palm of your hand on your phone. Few things about commissioning improvements. So first of all, we understand that time is money, and if we can make you life easier, so saving your time while installing, why are not doing that? So first of all, we are allowing to skip updates if it's a single home inverter without the batteries. So inverter will get the update during the night. Then secondary thing what we improved is the optimizer detection. It used to take approximately 5 minutes or maybe more, depends on the site size, to do the pairing. Now you set how many optimizers you actually installed. That means inverter knows how many optimizers it needs to look, and the process goes much faster. For the newcomers, for those who are not installing SolarEdge quite often, for those who never installed SolarEdge with the battery, well, we did a commissioning wizard. So basically, it's a step-by-step process. Once you're connecting modules to the inverter, you can actually just click start, next, next, and app will tell you what to do, what to check step by step, so you will not miss anything. Commissioning report, this is good to do it and save it for the company. So once you do the service, you can actually check what was done by the team who installed actually the installation. The same principles applies for CNI. So now we, instead of pairing, there is a choice optimizers, and then you can set how many optimizers you connected per unit. This is this, for example, from the Synergy inverter with the 3 units. So let's say 90 kilowatt inverter, so 30, 30, 30. New thing what we do, we also can find the strings. So we know strings, we detect the optimizers, and we can tell how many optimizers we detected in a specific string. So it's easier for you to detect a problem, easier to do the maintenance, and it's much easier to do the mapping. Few more tips from my side. Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and especially now today Estonia, we are ready to launch the full dynamic control for the Baltics. I believe it's going to be done in a few weeks. I saw today there's another step, another progress. So we'll start testing it in Estonia because Lithuania is still in net metering, not a net billing. We have only a few sites, but Latvia, Finland, and Estonia, I think it's good places where we can start doing this free of charge. Once you're opening my SolarEdge app, you open the site, you choose 3 dots over here, you click settings, and over there you have a setting to set the utility rates. So it's going to be Nord Pool. You set your rate plan from the distribution company, additional fees. If you have any VAT, of course, we all have. The same applies for the export. Then there is a negative rate optimization on the bottom. If inverter has no meter installed, once the Nord Pool price is negative, inverter will stop producing. It will stop working. If you have a meter, inverter would switch to the zero export. So from the exporting to the zero export, just to supply energy on your load. So please, those who got app, check it, and we will definitely do the launch, and we will inform everyone once it's fully ready. And then, of course, you will see how the inverter works. We'll run tests for a few weeks to see if everything is okay, and then we will do a launch for an entire country. About negative rate optimization, I just explained. One more important thing, asymmetry for the Baltics is important. In the Western Europe, they are calculating a sum. of production, some of consumption. We are calculating everything per phase. So as inverters, which can work as a symmetrical inverters, are very beneficial for the customer, also for the grid operators. So I have three scenarios. One scenario is that there is no export limitation. So inverter adopts a production per phase to the loads in the house, and the rest is exported. Simple. If customer have a zero export limitation, so inverter, first of all, adopts the load, charges the battery. If consumption is lower than the production, inverter will do a clipping and will do zero export and supply as much energy as it needs per phase. If you have a, let's say, specific export 2.5 kilowatts, that's again, inverter produces, charges the battery. Then if it's too much, it clips the energy and then exports what is allowed per phase. So SolarEdge inverter, the asymmetry works in all three scenarios we tested. And here also I want to mention a few things about the symmetry. For the sites which were installed last year, the home hub inverters, the only ones who support asymmetry is the hybrid home hub inverters. If you want to activate asymmetry, first of all, you need to be sure you have a more than 10% of DC nominal. So basically, if you have a 10 kilowatt inverter, it should produce at least 1 kilowatt for phase detection. It only needs only once. Then you need to go to the energy management settings and turn the measurement per phase, not total. Then you need to reselect the country code, either is Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, or Finland. And then that's it. For the new installations, you don't need to do anything. You will set, for example, a country code Estonia, and immediately the asymmetry will be activated. So that's only applies for the old installations. So that's it from my side. We are 12 minutes. My suggestion today would be not go to the troubleshooting. I don't believe we can do the troubleshooting in 12 minutes, right, Darius?
Yeah.
That would be a little bit too brutal. Let's maybe go to Q&A session. Just trying to get this everything back. Screen. Okay. So guys, we have 10 minutes. If you have any questions, I think it's the best time is to ask now. And for the troubleshooting, we will do a 30 minutes webinar. I see you guys who are successful with the Teams. You got the invitation, you managed to register, and you managed to connect. So instead now pushing you to all the information in 10 minutes, I think we'll do like 30 to 45 minutes, another webinar on the troubleshooting. So that's going to be much more beneficial for you guys. But now it's a good time for questions. So do you have any of the questions? Let's choose someone from the list. You know, maybe Thomas Kibus. Hello, Thomas. Are you with us?
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Any questions?
No, it's clear from my side, everything.
All right, so
until tomorrow morning.
Silver, any questions? Okay, I don't know if Silver is still here. I see Irmantas. Okay, Silver, I see it's, yeah, I think you managed to, yeah, hello.
Hello, pretty much clear, yeah, thanks. So this asymmetrical thing,
yes,
I understood correctly. If Home Hub installed last year, then we should activate this manually.
Yes, but with the SolarEdge Go, you don't need to go to the site.
Okay,
Okay.
that was my second point. I can do it remotely.
You can do it right after this meeting. Grab a cup of coffee, tea, whatever you like today. In this, at least it's sun in Vilnius, and you can do it. And I think it should be enough sun to do the phase detection.
Yes.
If inverter is not able to do the phase detection, you will see the error on the setup on the top that there is a fail to do the phase detection, and it's not a inverter's problem. The problem is that you have not enough DC just to start production. An inverter then needs to check which phase is which.
Okay. And smart meter is also necessary.
For the symmetry, yes. It's
Without
a
smart meter, it's impossible. Okay.
yeah, because the meter is the eyes for the
Yes,
for
of
the
course.
inverter. It needs to understand the consumption. Yeah. So basically, which direction the current flows.
Yeah, clear. And the zero price protection, you will inform us separately.
Yes. Negative rate optimization works in the Baltics already, I think, a year since last year, April. So the reason no one really asked me this summer, 2024 summer, because we had very few negative hours actually. There was some, I don't know, many technical issues in the Baltic network, and last summer we didn't experience much of negative hours. I think you have to agree with me.
Yes.
This year, I don't know. Netherlands are the hottest topic in this, so they are experiencing lots of negative hours. They are charging batteries during the negative hours and selling them later in the evening. So the full dynamic, it's free of charge. We are testing. Every customer can use it. And this is a very big benefit of selling and installing SolarEdge, because if you're installing some other inverter, which is more or less not supporting or supporting, I don't know, in a very weak way, the dynamic control, SolarEdge is doing this for free. You don't need to pay any annual fees, monthly fees, whatever. It's additional value, what you get from the manufacturer. And we are here every day. If you say, well, Gediminas, we noticed that the inverter was not doing this and this and this, we are immediately reacting and fixing it. Margus, how are you? I think you managed to join. Let's see, Margus is not here, maybe. Okay. Let's see. Valdo just joined again. So, guys, I don't want to do like in school if there is no one else. Got any questions? Thank you for joining this meeting. Please do not ignore another invitation to the troubleshooting webinar. I promise it's going to be interesting, and see you probably in 2-3 weeks for another webinar. And hopefully it's going to be a tradition for us to have very short webinars on SolarEdge topics. Also, please, if you have any topic you want to cover, anything what is interesting for you, we are happy to take that topic and do the detailed explanation. So if you are not willing to share it now, please drop the email.
Okay,
So,
thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the afternoon.